I've decided to leave this 1/8 inch on. My valve it must be in a different position despite all my precise measurements than Tubal Cain's. If I take this 1/8 inch off, then my valve will be exposed here. No good. That's no good. So I'm going to take this material off, which is almost identical to taking the material off on the other side. So I'm not going to bore you with doing that. As a test, I ate through that 3/4 inch piece of or 3/4 inch cut in one pass. There was no problem. I should have been taking deeper passes all along. I pretty much kept it soaked in WD-40. Live and learn. So here we are. Does that look more like it? Turned out pretty good. Except for this side. You can see where my end mill sucked down in the collet. I was surprised that happened. I thought at first that the work had raised up, but the end mill sucked down probably 30 thousandths. I'll blend that in. I mean, by the time I finish, you'll be able to tell it with a mic, but maybe not with your eye. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to build the main bearing out of 1/2 inch bronze 932. It's not what Mr. Pete calls out, Tubal Cain calls out, but that's what I'm going to use. And it'll give me a greater wall thickness than he uses. I don't know if that's any better, but yeah, I know it will. His plans call for a 3/16 inch main shaft, and this 1/2 inch piece of bronze will hold that nicely. So I'm going to face it and then just skim off a little bit here so it'll be shiny in case, because I believe it's going to be almost 1/2 inch long, and it's going to fit in that 1/4 inch pedestal, so there'll be some sticking out both sides, and I want it to be nice and shiny. So I'm going to face it, clean it up just a tiny bit, and then drill it and ream it 3/16. But I'm wondering if I've got a 3/16 reamer. Well, I'm going to face it, clean it up, and then figure that out. spaced nicely. Now I'm going to clean up something over 1/2 inch. I'll do that again. I was feeding at 0.00294. I'm going to slow her down to slow as she'll go, which is 0.00168. Just because I can. Going to take about 4 thousandths off. A little better finish. Now I've got to see if I have a 0.1875 reamer. Now I'm going to clean up something over 1/2 inch. I'll do that again. I was feeding at 0.00294. I'm going to slow her down to slow as she'll go, which is 0.00168. Just because I can. Going to take about 4 thousandths off. A little better finish. Now I've got to see if I have a 0.1875 reamer. It turns out I've got a lot of 3/16 inch reamers, 0.1875 inch reamers. So I'm going to drill this 11/64 and then ream to 3/16. And I'm going to use the tried and true tried and true method of marking the bit with a magic marker for depth. Chips cleaned out. Drilled it about 3/4 of an inch deep. All right, time to ream. Blow the chips out from the drilling operation. Well, that's a good finish. I had read that running a reamer slow and feeding fast was the way to do it. But I didn't do that this time. I ran the reamer at, well, I suppose slower than normal, but not slow. And I fed slow, and the finish looks great. So live and learn. It's time to cut this bearing off, time to separate it from the stock. The bearing, according to Tolly's, T-O-L-Y, drawing, I think I gave the website for Tolly, or the email for Tolly earlier. If not, I'll do it later. Is supposed to be 0.494 inches long. Well, then my cutoff tool is 0.144 inches wide, so I need to move it so that this edge is 0.494 from this surface. I've already found 0 there. It's flush with the cutoff tool there, so I need to move it 0.638 towards the chuck. Now, I've never liked the carriage feed because it's in 6/1000ths. The carriage dial is in 6/1000ths inch increments, and I've never really understood that. But I think I've never understood why it is. But anyway, so one complete turn is 60/1000ths, and I need to go 638. So we're going to go one complete turn. And then we need to do 38/1000ths. Well, 6/1000ths an increment, so that would be what? 6 increments. There's 6 increments, so now we're at 36, and so I'm going to go 36 and a little bit. All right, that's close enough, because because this the length of this bearing is far from critical. Turning this is slow as she'll go, 70 RPM. I didn't figure the SFM on that because there's no need to. I like to cut this bronze slow, and I'll feed by hand. Thin cut-off tool, we can go a lot faster. I could grind one, but I haven't, or I have actually, but not very successfully. I ground this one. It's at .144. It's kind of wide, but I sure have had great luck at keeping it sharp. Cutting about anything I want to with it. There we go. I stuck the bearing into the 3-jaw, and I'm going to clean up that the end of it there and clean all this crap off here. Looks good, feels good, makes me happy. I'm going to very carefully break this edge with the file. Note that the file's got a handle on it. Also, although you can't see it, I'm standing off to the right of the chuck on the file. So it doesn't come back and get introduced to my face. No, it didn't do anything to it. I was too timid. Yeah, that did the trick. And now I'm going to give it the bore a slight chamfer. Did I hit the camera? Light. That's what I wanted. Now I'll flip it over and do the same thing, but you've seen this, so you don't need to see that. So here's what the main bearing looks like. that .1875 hole, I'll fit a 3/16 .1875 shaft to it, and I might have to polish the shaft up a bit or even take a little bit off to get it to fit. That's the name of the game. In fact, I'm going to use a piece of 3/8 inch drill rod for the main shaft, because I've got this flywheel I want to use. I don't guess we have to be all zoomed in here. I've got this flywheel I want to use, and it's 3/8 inch bore in it. And so I'm going to, trust me, it's 3/8 inch bore. Drill rod will fit, basically. So I'm going to use a 3/8 inch drill rod and then turn it down to 18.1875 to fit this bore. And then it'll also be back on the plans. Mr. Pete's engine plan that Tolly drew up. Not that I'm sticking strictly to them, but I don't see any reason to change that main bearing bore dramatically for my purposes.